All right. Hey, how are y'all guys doing today? This is Nash here. Gonna be talking some Texas football today. Uh, we got the recap of Oklahoma and look forward preview to Oklahoma State. Let's hop right into it. All right, the Texas Longhorns coming off a disappointing loss to Oklahoma. Somehow is even more disappointing than the loss to Arkansas and Fayetteville. We jumped out to a roaring start, putting up a record 28 points in the first quarter. Entered halftime with an 18-point lead, 38-20. Just about everything seemed to go Oklahoma's way in the second half last Saturday. This was just, man, this is a tough game to lose. It really was. I've said it in the past, but this last one hurt. But a disturbing trend has started to appear, and throughout our first 6 games. And immediately after the loss, I went and thought, for some reason, the Texas Tech game popped in my head, and how oddly similar they were. And off the jump, it makes sense. I mean, why the two are similar. Texas jumped out to a roaring lead in the first, and then the second half, they allowed the other team to score a lot of points, majority of their points. Specifically, they allowed 60 to 66% of points scored in the second half. Texas Tech, 60. Oklahoma, 66. So you saw it with the University of Louisiana Lafayette. We actually, after the first game, we were like, okay, that was a great offensive showing, but we kind of need to monitor this situation with the defense. That wasn't good. Well, it got worse with Arkansas. Real worse. But now here's the deal. We were halfway through the third quarter, and we were still in the game, like 0 to 16 points. So, actually, I think even 7 to 16. So, this defense has shown they're going to let up a lot of points in the second half. And for Louisiana Lafayette, Arkansas, Texas Tech, and Oklahoma, in every single one of those games, it's been between 60 and 66 points. Or 60%. It's been between 60 to 66% of total points scored on the day for them occurred in the third and fourth quarter. Now, that's a problem because you're allowing teams to build up momentum late in the game. And it's not good. That's dangerous. We need to be pounding these opponents into the ground till the very end of the game. And I hate to harp on it too much, but it's like the fact that it's 4 out of 6 games. It's been that way. It's really concerning. It really is. And the 60%, it goes even deeper. You look at Arkansas. 17 of their 40 points were scored in the third quarter. And like I said, we were halfway through is probably wrong. It was probably a third to a quarter of the way through. We had gotten an interception. We had scored. And it was there was a point where it was a 7 to 16 ball game in the third quarter. And we let them score again, and then we don't score. We let them score again, and then the game's out of reach. So this is something that we have to get cleaned up if we want to consistently win ball games. And this is an issue that we saw under Tom Herman's teams. Allowing teams, this is what you saw it with Texas. A lot of fans were actually talking about how if Tom Herman were coaching the Texas Tech game this year, we would have lost that game. And I agree. Because I think at a certain point, we would have started to kind of bog down offensively. And then the same thing that's happening to this team happened to teams in the past, which is The defense lets teams come back up in the second quarter or second half. And when your offense bogs down, it's hard to get it going up again, you know? Once you get that engine rolling, you don't turn it off. So that's pretty much that. There is one more thing that I wanted to, and there's another thing. In Big 12 play, Texas is being outscored 47-66 in the third and fourth quarters. Now, luckily, we're outscoring opponents 103-51 in the first and second quarters. So we're doubling opponents in the first and second, but we're losing in the third and fourth. And that's, I mean, like I said, that's a dangerous way to win ball games. I'd much rather win ball games blowing people out in the first and second and then holding steady in the third and fourth. Now, I'd absolutely much rather have blowing people out in the first and second than blowing people out in the third and fourth. I'll take that any day of the week over anything else. So, now we look ahead. This week, the Longhorns face off against the undefeated number 12 ranked Oklahoma State. The skins on the wall might not jump out and scream a juggernaut team, but the fact that they're undefeated, you have to respect that. They are not the typical they're not the typical Oklahoma State. I was thinking OSU. They're not the typical Oklahoma State of years past. They won't wow you every week with guns blazing offense. They're going to win defensively. It's a complete 180 from the past years. Now, that's not to say they can't and they won't put up offensive numbers. Against Kansas State, the first half, Spencer Sanders, he put on a show. Lit up the middle of the field, couldn't seem to do anything wrong. I mean, I've heard in the past Russell Wilson comparisons, and it looked like it in that game. He's a guy that can move. He's a guy that can throw. So he's a definition of a dual threat. And they got a decent running back too. He's like a little cannonball. 5'8", 215 pounds. You know, he's short and stocky. He's a guy that's bouncing off people. He was in one of the graphics that I just put out for top running backs in the Big 12 or in the nation, I believe. The Big 12 has some pretty good running backs this year, and he's one of them. He's got three triple digit stat lines this year. You'll see the stat lines right here. He's a pretty good dude. He's a workhorse. Definition of a workhorse. Then you got Tay Martin. I love this dude. I wish he was on Texas. Transfer from Washington State, 2020. So not this year, but COVID year. He's been consistent for them through 3 games he's played in this year, averaging 15 yards per reception with a long of 27. So what that means is he's not skewing his numbers. He doesn't have a 99-yard pass that's making a bunch of 10-yard passes look like a longer. No. This dude is consistently getting between 10 and 25 yards. And that's dangerous. So there's this Tay Martin guy, right? This dude, like I just said, he's getting 20 yards a catch every time the ball's touching his hands, or just about every time the ball touches his hands. It seems good things has happened for Oklahoma State. This dude, he was targeted against Missouri State, the Missouri State Bears, 7 times, 3 receptions, 67 yards, a long of 27. Against Kansas State, he was targeted 12 times, 9 receptions, 100 yards, 1 touchdown, a long of 20. And then against Boise State, he didn't play, I believe. And then the Baylor Bears. This is a good game for him. 8 targets, 6 receptions, 110 yards, long of 26. He's catching the ball frequently when they throw it his way, and they throw it his way often. The first game of the year is actually the game where he has the least amount of targets, and I think he might have played one other game where he had 1 target, but I don't know this, but I'm going to assume he got injured because he didn't show up in the next game, and for him to be the leading receiver in all 3 other games, and then not those 2, that's just my assumption. I don't know that 100%, but I'd be willing to put some money on it. Let's hope he doesn't tear up the Texas defense. I mean, like I said, this Spencer Sanders guy, he's going to attack the middle of the field. That's where I've seen him look successful. That's where he looks his best throwing the football. So he's going to test DeMarvin Overshown a lot. And then just like we have a matchup, DeMarvin Overshown versus Spencer Sanders, because keep in mind, Spencer Sanders, he's the type of guy, if DeMarvin Overshown over-pursues, he will have to pay. So you cannot over-pursue with a guy like Sanders. Excuse me. All right, and then last but not least on the team, Malcolm Rodriguez. He's leading their team in tackles. He's actually 17th in the nation in tackles right now. He's leading a stout run defense, averaging 91 yards per game, giving up on the run, Oklahoma State. That's, I believe, tied for second best in the Big 12. Whereas Texas is the complete opposite. So that's going to be another good battle on the other side. Bijan Robinson versus Rodriguez. The implications of this game Saturday, we got Arch Manning, Arch Manning, 2023 star recruit in town. He's in town to see Texas on an unofficial visit. What's an unofficial? What's an official? Basically, and just as simple as you could put it, unofficial visit. It's on your own time. It's on your own dime. So you're paying for it. You're just going to the football game. You're able to go to the university. And it's mainly you checking things out. But you can have a player that can be in a certain spot, and, oh, hey, yeah, let me show you around, Arch, in quotes, air quotes. But recruiting is very loosey-goosey with that stuff. And then an official visit is basically the school's paying for it. They're paying for the hotel. You're able to come in. They're able to pay for your food, all that stuff. He's still able to meet with the coaches on an unofficial visit, but Texas isn't paying for it. And then there's a little bit less interaction that can happen. And then the other implication is Texas is facing being cast into the unranked category for a second time. 5-2 looks a hell of a lot better than 4-3. I'll add that. A lot better. Oh, if we start out 4-3. Oh, this is going to be a headache. And then so now time for the prediction. I mean, just about everything I say in these midweek videos is a 180-degree difference from what happens on Saturday. I say Hudson Card is phenomenal. He then goes and plays against Arkansas, how he did. I say Xavier Worthy is insane. He goes and has a bad performance against TCU. I say Texas either wins big or allows OU to come back, but we still get the win and edge them out because we got Bijan. Kennedy Brooks goes for runs without getting touched. And same with that Caleb Williams. I mean, so I'm not doing so hot on these predictions. And those weren't even really predictions. Those were just advanced stats where I'm talking about how these players are looking and doing good. And then immediately after, complete difference. Luckily, Xavier Worthy is insane. That dude is. I mean, that stance has stayed legit, stayed true. I still believe my stance on Hudson Card. I still like that. He had a bad game, yeah. I'm not worried about that too much. Casey Thompson, should he start? Yes. Both of those things can be true. So logic says I should say Oklahoma State is just going to kick our butt. They're going to wax us. And that should be what I say. But it's never that simple. What I'm hoping this loss does is I'm hoping that pain that OU gave Texas, that sting after that loss, is just so great that they're just like, I don't ever want to do that again. I don't ever want to feel that again. So you know what? We're sorry if we're going to start kicking opponents while they're down. But I'd rather kick opponents while they're down than that opponent get up and beat me. You know? But so ultimately, my thoughts are I think this game is going to go the way of the TCU game. And ultimately, I think the Texas offense is going to power through and put enough points up on the board to get us the win. This Oklahoma State team, they are a scrappy team. This is not a team that you can let hang around, because if you let them hang around, they will take advantage of it. This is a team that when they play at their best, you have to earn everything. And I think we just have to assume that they're going to come in and play at their best from what we've seen in years past. And anything less than that will be a great surprise. Because if they don't play at their best, and Texas is playing at their best, well, actually, if they both play at their best, Texas is going to win. Now that's the question: does Texas play at their best? Does Oklahoma State play at their best? Who knows? Well, I think I've chewed enough people out, worn enough people's ears out enough. If you got to this point, I really appreciate it. Thank you for tuning in. Let's go get a Longhorn dub this weekend. Let's bring Arch Manning in to Austin, Texas. And you all have a good one. Hook 'em.